Welcome back to our special coverage of a historic day in Washington. As mentioned, Democrats voting for the first time ever on the official rules and blueprint to impeach President Trump. We have seen a veritable avalanche of evidence that the investigators have already privately collected. And here is how focused that probe is. Consider that today, at the same time that the historic impeachment vote occurred, a brand new witness marched in to testify behind closed doors. It's on the right of your screen there. You're looking at Trump's former national security aide, Tim Morrison. He was on the Trump call with the president of Ukraine. He still worked in the White House at least until yesterday when, yes, not coincidentally, he formally stepped down. Now, he is testifying that he promptly told White House lawyers he was concerned that that call with Ukraine would become public. He was concerned about many aspects of it, but he also offered his personal opinion that he doesn't think it's illegal. More importantly, perhaps, though, he corroborated testimony that Trump was seeking a quid pro quo with Ukraine to go after Biden. Morrison effectively backing up a long list of witnesses. Well, you take it all together, who are talking about this bribe. So today, as mentioned, alongside the vote on the floor, you have Tim Morrison. He's confirming what Ambassador Bill Taylor has previously testified. Plus, you have, of course, diplomat Fiona Hill. And then that Army officer, Alexander Vindman, who so rattled the White House. And then, of course, on top of them all, in terms of hierarchy, Donald Trump's very top aide.
There was no quid pro quo. There was nothing.
Did he also mention to me in the past the corruption related to the DNC server? Absolutely. No question about that.
There was no quid pro quo at all.
But to be clear, what you just described is a quid pro quo.
We do that all the time with foreign policy.
There was no quid pro quo, unlike Biden.
That's it. And that's why we held up the money.
We never did that, unless, of course, you mean what we do all the time. So what do you do with a defense heading into an impeachment probe that's now official with that kind of factual predicate? Back with me to break down this historic day in Washington, we have the experts on the investigation and the political process that hits Congress. Former federal prosecutor Glenn Kirshner and longtime pollster for Barack Obama and other top officials, Cornell Belcher. Good evening to both of you.
Good evening, Ari.
Cornell, you know why you're here. Do you know why you're here?
To rap?
No. No, I mean, if you want to, but that's not why we booked you. We booked you because you deal with the numbers and the public opinion, not what folks want to happen or hope will happen or think will happen. You deal with where the people are. And so when you look at what the House just did today and the mounting evidence, from an objective perspective of the people, what do you see as significant tonight?
Okay, so I'll keep my mixtape. What I think is significant this evening really is Republicans are on record with saying that it's okay for our leader to ask for foreign assistance. And when you look at all the polling around this, you know, it's not just Democrats, but when you look at a majority of independents who are either for impeachment or for the inquiry, Republicans are not where the majority of Americans are, and they're particularly not where the majority of independents and moderate voters are. And when you look at these battlegrounds states where they need to do well, and you look at where they are struggling in the suburbs, many of these congressional districts where the battleground is going to be fought and won in the suburbs, these college-educated voters are not where Republicans are on stonewalling this. And I was watching something earlier where Republicans are literally running from reporters who are asking them, is it okay for a president to ask foreign powers for help? They don't want to answer that question. That's going to be tough for them to take into the fall of 2020.
Right, and that brings us to Glenn, which is how do you define what the issues are? What's the scope of the issues? What are the questions? I mean, Glenn, when you go to the Supreme Court, that question presented section at the beginning of the brief is crucial because how you define the question and what's at issue often tells you whether you win or lose. And to Cornell's point, it's not only Republicans in Congress who ultimately have their own districts to worry about. People who need jobs from Donald Trump right now, like this new ambassador, didn't even want to say under oath, well, this is okay, saying very embarrassingly to Trump, under oath, no, it's not okay. And that brings me, Glenn, to Vindman. I want to read here about the Republican anxiety. Republicans on the Hill, mindful of not getting too far ahead of the president, they can say something on Monday morning and learn it's not true on Monday afternoon. Glenn.
Yeah, Ari, this really is a hearts and minds campaign. And I think what the House is doing is tactically shrewd because they are hearing from all of these career public servants, but they're doing it behind closed doors. What that gives them the opportunity to do is fine-tune the information that they will then choose to present publicly to the American people. It, I think, is going to be a compelling presentation when they actually bring to light through the testimony of these patriots. I mean, this is a patriotic surge, these witnesses that we have seen over the past couple of weeks. Gone will be the Corey Lewandowskis and the Hope Hicks of the world who are going to fight everything tooth and nail because they are Trump loyalists. Once,
let's pause on that. You're talking about what the testimonial evidence, the witnesses, the fact witnesses. And in the Mueller probe, as you were mentioning, a lot of the fact witnesses were the people who were willing to work for Donald Trump in 2015, in the case of Lewandowski and Hicks, and early 2016, when most Republicans were trying to stop him from getting the nomination. Now, I'm not casting aspersions on all of them, but I think it's fair to say that's a certain group of people, and they weren't longtime government servants. They certainly weren't public servants, and they weren't in the mainstream Republican Party. And you're saying that was one thing. But now you've got people who are public servants, who have credibility, in many cases who have public service for multiple administrations, multiple parties, military. You're talking about their power as witnesses, Glenn.
Yeah, and the public hasn't seen the testimony of the Bill Taylors and the Ambassador Yovanovitches and the Fiona Hills and the Lieutenant Colonel Vindmans. I salute his service. When they begin to see these people testify, they may hold them up to the Corey Lewandowski performances that we see, and it's going to have a real impact. And I think for the first time, you're going to have the public sit up and take note at just how much abuse has been going on inside this administration.
Cornell, do you agree with that?
I do, and I would take it further with the attacks on the military. Look, and take a state like South Carolina where you have Senator Graham. Senator Graham, a state like that, full of veterans with strong military and pride, the Republicans going to have to answer, is it okay for the administration and to be attacking these patriots and these American heroes this way? And how come you don't step out and defend them? And Republicans have been silent on that. And I think that becomes really problematic, even in deep southern and places where the military is really important.
And Cornell, I'm curious as we go to what is the televised public stage, what it means the way they're setting this up. And we were covering this because I was along with a lot of our experts watching live this morning. These rules don't just say, hey, public hearings, go. As we've been reporting, there's a lot more to it. One of the things they do is set up to 90 minutes aside for non-politician professional experts to lead the questioning. And we put together something I want to show briefly, which compares Mr. Lewandowski, recently name-checked by Glenn, but he was being questioned not by a politician, but by Barry Burke in what many people thought was one of the more effective parts of that hearing, which echoes Watergate, where they didn't have as good camera work, so you won't see Fred Thompson, but you'll hear his voice, who at the time was the lawyer on the committee. Take a look.
Did you say that because you wanted to protect the president?
Not to the best of my recollection.
Sir, did you deny it because you wanted to protect yourself?
Not to the best of my recollection, Mr. Burke.
Why did you lie on national television?
Are you aware of the installation of any listening devices in the Oval Office of the President?
I was aware of listening devices.
Cornell, if the jury is made up of the type of people that you help win elections, senators, how much does it matter that the public might see hearings that are really led by non-politicians or professionals in how people ultimately judge this case around the nation?
I think it becomes real problematic because I don't see the number of Americans who approve of this process and approve of the president being impeached shrinking as more of the evidence is put forward, and particularly put forward not in a harsh sort of partisan political way, but put forward by professionals.
You're saying that hurts the White House?
I think that hurts Republicans who have to be on the ballot. I think, look, Donald Trump aside, if you're a Republican in a tough congressional district, or you're a Republican say in Colorado, for example, I think it's tough for you to keep carrying the president's water the way like this as more evidence comes out.
And Glenn, before I let you go, your view on that issue, and does the White House ultimately send down lawyers the way Clinton did? We were talking about this earlier in the show. Do they send White House counsel? Do they send Jay Sekulow? Or do you see them ultimately, because they've been in so deep stonewalling, of just trying to neglect and ignore the whole House process?
Yeah, I think they're going to stick with the witch hunt refrain and say we are not going to participate in this process because it would just breathe life into what we view as an illegitimate proceeding. But I think it was brilliant that the House voted to open it up to the president. He can participate. He can present witnesses, because every case I have ever tried, Ari, the prosecution had a lot of really good evidence, or we wouldn't be standing up in court asking a jury to hold somebody accountable for a crime. But the defense usually doesn't have a whole heck of a lot. So what they try to do is just poke holes in the government's case. So I think the weakness or absence of a case by the president is going to make the House's case look all the stronger.
Glenn and Cornell, I got to fit in a break. I'll have you back for more analysis or the mixtape, dealer's choice. My thanks to both of you. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.